Welcome to the XL Sports Network College Football Drive 5, brought to you by the Steakhouse Restaurant in Hawkinsville. We're coming to you live from the David Venable Studios in downtown Hawkinsville, here with Will Nobles, my sidekick, Ken on the boards. Guys, first time we've been on the air in a couple of weeks due to some other issues that we had going on, family issues and some medical appointments we had last week. We apologize to our audience for being off the air the last couple weeks, but we got some stuff to talk about today. Will, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back.
Man, it's fun to be back. I did miss this quite a bit, so we're gonna jump right into it. Well, we got a lot of stuff that's gone on over the last couple weeks, so we're not gonna be able to hit everything, obviously, but some of the bigger things that have happened, we're gonna go ahead and jump into that. First thing we're talking about, Bill, is the NCAA and the Power 5 conferences. And it's kind of funny they talk about the Power 5 conferences, but they define them as Power 5s as the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and oddly enough, the Pac-12. It's just not even a conference anymore.
Well, it's still recognized as a conference because they just only have two members.
Right.
Because they still compete in other sports too. It's just the football programs that have left. Right. But like I said, as far as the Pac-12, it still exists for however long it's going to exist. But as of right now, it's the Pac-12, but in name only.
Right. Anyway, they have agreed. They have agreed. It hasn't gone through the court system completely yet. So there is a chance that this may fall apart. But they have reported that the NCAA and these conferences have agreed to a $2.7 billion payout to players going through the next 10 years as players and former players as well. Notre Dame's also agreed to that settlement as a member of the ACC, which is kind of strange, but I guess they do compete in the ACC in basketball. They did in the COVID year in football, and they do play kind of a semi-ACC schedule in football. They play a few teams every year. I don't know why they don't jump in. Well, I do know why, but whatever. So anyway, players from 2016 going forward are eligible for the money in the settlement. A lot of things will in the courts right now with that. Apparently, there's some other lawsuits that are going to be combined up into this. They're going to, I think they're going to combine three of them up, and there's going to be some antitrust things going on, some ability for them to kind of consolidate these lawsuits, and the players, from what I understand, when I read, some of the players that are eligible from 2016 going forward can choose to take part in the settlement, and it's going to be the money, from what I understand, is going to be, they don't know how they're going to distribute it yet as far as who gets what, but they're talking about snap count, how many snaps did you take through your career. They said they may even look at how highly rated a player was coming out of high school. Their stars may get involved in that. That's just speculation from what I've seen or read. I don't understand that, because you have different rating criteria for that. So I have no idea. Maybe an average of all the rating recruiting systems out there. A lot of unknown. I do know that they said that a player can choose to not get into this. They can go out on their own. They cannot sue these if they take part in this settlement. Then they're agreeing they will not later on go back and sue the NCAA for NIL monies or for TV rights monies and all that other stuff. But if they decide they don't want to get into this, then they can go out on their own. There is a player, an athlete in Colorado. I want to say a football player. Fontenot was his last name, not sure his first name. He is in the middle of a lawsuit with the NCAA and the TV rights money, how that's distributed to the athletes, and that's not part of this agreement. So the players can choose to jump on that bandwagon if they want. That has not gone through the system yet. No guarantees whatsoever that lawsuit is going to be in the favor of the players, but that's what I know. Will, have you read anything or done research on this?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I understand all the legalese or the antitrust laws or anything like that. And I'm not a financial expert on how the money gets distributed either. But anybody who is worried about, the sky's falling, they're paying athletes now. It's not that simple. There's going to have to be more legislation, more governance than this, because one of the big issues that I was reading about was people's concern with Title IX, and if you don't know Title IX, that basically any school that takes public funding money, they have to provide equal opportunity, and I believe it's also as far as compensation goes as well to both men and women's sports, and not just men and women's sports, but also sports in general, like even men's football compared to men's basketball or men's lacrosse, whatever. So, a lot of the concerns I saw were, one, if you have to pay everybody the same amount, you can't pay your starting quarterback the same amount as somebody on your lacrosse team per se. I don't know how that would work either. And people are concerned with things like that, forcing schools to cut programs because they cannot afford to pay those athletes. So I don't think that is going to be a problem because, like I said, they're going to have some other legislation or governance to prevent that from happening. But it's not done yet. First of all, like you said, still has to go through a couple more, I believe, approval processes to be done. And then again, like I said, there's going to be more legislation more that comes after this. It's not just going to be a free-for-all, and I think that's what people have been worried about. Schools can pay players now. Oh no, everybody's going to just be able to compete. I don't think that's going to be it at all, because this. Well, first of all, this thing, if it had not been settled, it could have bankrupted the NCAA, which I think would have been hilarious, but it would have taken forever. But I do think this is another step in taking away power from the NCAA. So I think the schools themselves will meet up to make sure things like that happen, where they don't lose athletes, they don't lose programs. And I think this is again, good or bad, we'll see. But I think this is a step in the direction of giving power back to the schools to govern themselves, and I think that's how it should be, as opposed to a weak entity as that the NCAA has been.
Yeah, and the numbers that I saw, they were going to pay, each school was going to be able to pay athletes $20 million. That, like you said, that's spread out for every, as far as I read, if I read it right, that's spread out for every sport. $20 million spread out over, gymnastics, equestrian or
water polo, whatever.
Water polo, I mean everything. So golf, I mean whatever it is, and we all know that these schools that I just named on these conferences, what is generating the most? What generates the most income? Football.
It's either football or basketball.
Basketball, right? Well, even the ACC, football still probably generate more than basketball, maybe even in the ACC.
It's quite possible.
Yeah. So, and the rest of them, obviously, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. I'm sure of it. So, you're right. It could be, a way for them to push these other programs aside, and I hate that, because there's nothing better than my daughter, she played college softball, there's nothing better than watching a child compete at that level. So it's really pretty cool. I thought it was kind of interesting. Notre Dame also was singled out, named as agreed to the settlement. Got that Notre Dame in there.
Well, yeah, because it does specifically mention Power 5 conference teams, and they are not in the Power 5. But it does also mention the Group of 5 teams, which does make me question, I guess, if there are other independent programs that were excluded from this. I guess in football you only have UConn and UMass besides Notre Dame, but they may be in a conference in other sports. I'm not sure about that. That like you said, it was interesting they singled out Notre Dame. Curious if any other programs were left out. I can't imagine they would be, because they're giving money to FCS schools in the settlement. So,
excuse me. Other things to talk about, Will, the SEC spring meetings. I hadn't heard a lot about that. Just kind of read some things on it. One of the things that I read was roster limitations. They're talking about.
I think that's been the big hot button issue.
And from what I understand, Greg Sankey said that all the coaches are dead against that. Obviously, I mean, you don't want to do that because, I mean, what they're going to end up doing if they do this, they're going to place a roster, at 85. That's your scholarship rosters right there. And you have 85 on your roster. And what they're trying to do is, what's really happened in the NIL world. Let's just take Carson Beck for example. You know, Carson Beck gets a NIL deal for $5 million, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Well, he don't really need that $6,000 a year tuition. So he don't really need to be on a scholarship because he's got enough money that he can pay his own way through school, right? Well, that frees up another scholarship for somebody else. Well, what they're trying to do is say, okay, you can't just go cherry pick 85 of your best players and put them on NIL, and then take another 85 and put them on scholarship. You can't do that. So I think that's what they're trying to prevent. But the thing is, you also got to have guys that are walk-ons in schools, and those guys. I mean, they're very important. And if you look at, I don't know about some of the other schools. I do know the University of Georgia has some walk-ons that play a lot. Dan Jackson's still on a scholarship, as far as I know. And he's starting safety at Georgia. So, some of those guys, and play an important part on the team in practice and other things. But they're gonna, if they do this, they're gonna end up pushing those a lot of those walk-ons out the door. We got kickers out there. Most kickers are walk-ons. So they're going to be forced to be on scholarship as well. So, what's your thoughts on that?
What's the current limit right now? Is it 120, 125, something like that?
I heard that Matt Rule said he had over 130 on his.
So there's not a limit right now.
I don't think there's a limit.
Okay.
I know when Mason, cousin Mason Kinsey played at Berry College, and Berry's NCAA, they're Division III. But I know when I went and watched him his first game, he was a freshman, and I saw the program on it. Now he was on the front part of the program. They had all the starters and the backups on there, but then they had everybody else on there. That was 120 something kids on the team. Berry College, Division III school. So, yeah, there's a lot on these Division I schools. 120 plus. I'm pretty much thinking on those.
Yeah, so if there's not a limit right now, I think they probably will set a limit because, like you said, you can't just say, hey, we'll let you pay whoever you want to be on the team. But this is coming off the heels, I think, of that ruling in the NCAA versus House of, hey, we're going to be able to pay athletes now. Again, I don't fully understand all of the legalese and financial ramifications of that, but I would think that would limit the amount that you're allowed to pay these players to prevent this from happening. Because, like I said, if you have $20 million that you have to split up over however many programs and however many athletes,
right.
I mean, you're not going to be able to pay each one $1 million. I mean, we're looking at a few thousand is what it's going to be.
Right.
I mean, and like I said, if you have to split it up evenly for everybody, I mean, you're looking at maybe $2,000. That's not going to be enough to be in lieu of a scholarship for these kids.
Well, that's not taking into account the NIL deals.
Oh no, I know.
The NIL deals are going to be separate than that.
But I think if I understood
now, what's going to end up happening is those large contributors on NIL are going to probably put the money in the pot, help the school out for that $20 million each year. I would guess. I don't know. That might come out of revenue from TV. I have no idea how they're going to get that.
Well, if I understood the what I read earlier correctly, the money that the school is going to be able to use is going to sort of replace what these NIL collectives have done. Like, you're not going to be able to have a collective pumping money into the school. That's going to be something that's more regulated, and they're kind of going to go after you for that. But again, that's if I understood the thing correctly, which I don't know that I do. But again, this is very, very early stages for all this. I don't know that we know what's going to happen yet. There's probably going to be 3 or 4 more changes before we even see any results from any of this.
They can't be right, because there's going to be, all right, let's just say, John Smith Chevrolet dealership in Pick Your Town, USA, Collegetown, USA, says, hey man, this kid coming out of high school here, we want this kid to come here. So they say, hey, reach out to him and say, hey, you sign with them, and we'll pay you. You can do a couple commercials for us, and we'll pay you $1 million a year. I think, to me, that's something, that's capitalism, man. That's what this nation's all about. Capitalizing on yourself. I think there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Or if a kid, there's nothing different than a kid having a job making, $15 an hour cutting grass. It's the same thing. You capitalize off what you can do, and that's what NIL is all about. So I don't know that you can, tell them that they can take money from the school and that's going to do away with all the NIL deals because
Not all the NIL. I'm talking about the NIL collectives that specifically have formed to pay money to these schools for these players, and they have no intentions of any sort of advertising or things like that. It was. I think that is. I could be wrong, but I think that was the intent of what they were doing there. It's hey, we're taking that away and placing it in a more, I guess, what's the word? I guess traceable environment where they can keep track of it better. But no, what you're describing is NIL in its purest form and what it was intended to be, and I don't think that's going anywhere. I think they're trying to encourage that more by limiting how much they're saying. Okay, the schools can pay them, but we're going to limit how much the schools can pay them.
Right.
Which again, I think that is basically just saying, hey, we're going to give you money that would normally go to paying for your tuition, but it's going in your pocket now. And if that's how they want to do it, that's how they can do it. It's whatever.
Well, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the XL Sports Network, College Football Drive at 5. For the first time in a couple weeks, we're back. We'll take about 3 minutes, come back on the other side, talk about some other things. You are listening to the XL Sports Network. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the XL Sports Network, College Football Drive at 5, brought to you by the Steakhouse Restaurant in Hawkinsville. And we're coming to you live from the Devil Suitors in downtown Hawkinsville. And I'll tell you guys, Thursday nights at the Steakhouse, I leave here sometimes and go over there and have dinner. Man, it's so good. And well, they have that fried shrimp. It's just, oh man, it's awesome. I can't tell you how many plates of it I ate last time I was over there. It was more than one, I can promise you that. Fried chicken was great. All the sides, man, Lewis in the game, they just take great care of you. Go over there and have a good meal. So, Will, we're just talking about it in between the on the break here. The Jaden Rashada lawsuit against Billy Napier. Man, what a kind of a weird thing that is. You know, you got a University of Georgia football player that's suing the biggest rival's coach. They're suing him for backing out a $13.8 million NIL deal, and you know, from what I understand, Rashada was committed to go to the University of Miami. They had set to pay him $9.5 million, and apparently in December of 22, I think it is, he got an offer from Florida for $13.8 million if he signed with Florida with I think $1 million signing bonus. He signed with them, never got the money, got on campus, and they said, well, you know, our collective is backed out. And so he decided to get out of his NIL or his NIT, National Letter of Intent, NLI. So we got NIL, NLI. He got out of his National Letter of Intent, and he transferred to Arizona State. Played out there last year for the season, and just recently transferred to the University of Georgia. Got to UGA and decided to file a lawsuit against Billy Napier and one of the boosters. What an amazing story, Will, this is. It's really gonna have some lasting effects during the season, and it's gonna be kind of a you know, that Saturday and around Halloween's gonna be kind of interesting, even if he's not playing. If he's not playing, you know, on the field, it's still gonna be interesting. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, can you think of a better way for Jaden Rashada to endear himself to Georgia fans coming into the program?
Man, I'm telling you.
He said, not only am I not going to Florida, I'm suing them. And immediately everybody, the Georgia Bulldogs fan, they're like, we love you. We want you to start for us next year.
Yeah, I think Gunnar Stockton might have something to say about that. But,
no, he might, but still, like I said, there's no better way to endear yourself to a fan base than to say, guess what, I'm suing our rivals. That is...
And not only just suing the school, because the school has nothing to do with it. But here's the thing, well, think about this. So what happens if you know, in Florida, listen, folks, Florida's got a tough schedule this year. They probably got, if they don't have the toughest schedule in the nation, I'll guarantee you it's going to be one of the toughest schedules in the nation. There's a very good chance they could go 3-9 this year. Very good chance.
It's on the board.
Yeah. I think they're over and under a win total probably 4.5, if it's that. So if they go 4-8 this year, or even 5-7, a good chance that Billy Napier is going to be gone. And this lawsuit may be a for-cause lawsuit. You know, Florida may say, you know what, because of what you did, and you're involved in a lawsuit, they could fire him for cause and not have to pay him a payout. So I don't know, just saying, you know, what you got?
Jaden Rashada, like I said, set himself up great for Georgia fans, poised to be a fan favorite, assuming he can, you know, deliver on the field. But like I said before, we all know who the last Arizona State transfer was that came to the SEC. He was all right, I guess.
I guess. He's got
and
a trophy.
Several, I think, actually.
Yeah. And a lot of money.
But like you said, this is setting up to be a good situation for Jaden Rashada, and probably, or potentially, the worst possible year for Billy Napier. 2024 could end very poorly for Billy Napier. I don't wish it upon him. I think that's very evil spirit. I do not wish that upon him, even as a Florida coach. But I mean, it's going to be tough, especially because if they do. Let's say they do hit their floor of only 3 wins. All 3 of those games are before they play Georgia. Yeah. So there's a very real chance they come into that Georgia game on a 2-game losing streak to Kentucky and Tennessee. And, man, if Gus has something to say about it, a 3-game losing streak to UCF, we'll see. He's done some work in the portal. So I'm not convinced Florida's going to do well this year. We've talked about it. I think they have a tough schedule, and I don't know if they have a good team, and I don't know if they have a good coach. But I think it's interesting, and I truly believe, from my perspective, I don't think Jaden Rashada even cares if he gets the money, because he knows that if he plays well and is he starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, that's worth way more than $13 million.
Eventually. Yeah.
Maybe this is just a pettiness in me, but I like to think that it's just to throw them off. It's like, what would be great for Georgia if Florida's terrible again? And guess what? If your head coach is facing a lawsuit for the entirety of the football season, he's going to be a tad distracted, I would venture to guess. So this may be his way of trying to, like you said, get Billy Napier fired, and it might work.
Why wasn't this not Dan Mullen? I actually like Billy Napier. I like Billy Napier.
Maybe he'll go back to the Sun Belt where he had some success.
Man, I like the guy, man. It's hard to say that. It's hard for me to say that I like anything that's affiliated with the Gators. But I actually do like Billy Napier. I actually think he's probably not a bad coach. Now, I think right now he is in a situation that's just not good.
I mean, I don't think he has proven anything to me at Florida. And you can't say he hasn't had enough time. He's been there for 3-4 years now.
No, this is his 3rd season. He's been 2 years.
And they've gotten worse. They've gotten worse both times. But
well, and I'll tell you what though. But in his defense, man, listen, they're trying to defend the Gators here. In his defense, he's playing in a division, or now it's not a division, but up until now he's been playing in a division with the best team in college football. And you're not. I'm sorry, but it's really tough to compete with that team, and the emergence of Tennessee, and what, Kentucky's gotten pretty good over the last few years too. So
they're still the same 7-5, 8-4 team they have been.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm pretty sure they've beat Florida in back-to-back years, and that has not happened.
Is that Kentucky?
Yes.
Yeah.
That has not happened in forever, and that happened on Billy Napier's watch. So again, I don't think there's a whole lot of W's for him. I think if
hey, listen, if you guys are Florida fans out there watching this, I'm sorry, I really am. Just keep watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a comment. We'll even bring you on the air if you want to. But I'm not laughing at you. We'll do that when the camera's off. But anyway, no, I'm sorry.
I just think it's the perfect storm. I guess not perfect storm, but I think it's a tough situation for Billy Napier to be in. But I mean, the inverse of that is also true. If Florida does perform, and I would still give him major credit, especially for having this lawsuit hanging over his head, and that's something he's got to deal with in his personal time. Because I think sometimes we tend to not view these players and coaches as humans. I mean, the players are still kids. I mean, they're 18, 19, 20 years old. And the coaches are still humans too. They have families, they have lives, things they got to do. Well, if Florida can have a good season this year, I mean, and I don't know what good is comparatively. I think if they make a bowl game, that's a successful year this year.
No doubt.
But I mean, if they somehow make it to 8-9 wins, I mean, that would be insane.
If they have 9 wins this year, with that schedule, if they have 9 wins, they may make a playoff.
They'd be a top 15 team.
Depends on who
sure.
they lose to.
They'd be a top 15 team for sure.
They would definitely. With that schedule, no, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. And I feel bad for Billy Napier. I got my best friend in the whole world, man. His son, he called me the other day and said, "Man, my son's going to Florida." I said, where at Florida? He said, no, University of Florida. I said, well, it's been nice knowing you. I've known this guy for 30-something years. He's my best friend. He's like my brother. But I was like, oh, no, man, not Florida. Nah, yeah, I'll still talk to him. I said, that's just, that's your son, not mine. So you do what you want to. Florida's actually a good school. We talked about that. Florida's actually it's actually a good school, good education down there. So, as dog fans, we can't say all of this stuff about Georgia. So it is what it is. All right, moving along. We're gonna We're gonna take a break in a couple minutes. We'll stay on this for a second here. So what else? Let's see. We're talking about Jaden Rashada. Let's talk a little bit about, since we're talking about the Georgia quarterback. What are your expectations for Jaden Rashada this year? This year, not next year.
This year?
Yeah.
I don't have any. I mean, he's gonna be a backup with Gunner and. Probably get to play against Florida because I don't anticipate that to be a close game. I think he's going, like you said, have the Gunner role. Had last year they may split reps. I mean, Gunner might just beat him out in the fall practice before the games start. He might be the third string guy. Expectations for him. Well, I think this is a we'll see year to find out who he is and what he can do and how he competes with Gunner. Because after Carson Beck leaves, that's going to be who the competition's between. But I mean, if Ryan Pugga, if he's got anything to say about it, he might be fighting for the starting job next year too.
Pugga, I love it.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll listen to the XL Sports Network College Football Drive at 5, brought to you by the Steakhouse Restaurant in Hawkinsville. Before we go, look us up on YouTube, the XL Sports Network on YouTube. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and leave us a comment. Again, we'd love to have you guys on the air. If you guys want to get on the air with us, just leave us a message and we'll get in touch with you and set up a time we can call in and we'll talk whatever you want to talk about. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Y'all listen to the XL Sports Network. We're back. Listen to the XL Sports Network College Football Drive at 5, brought to you by the Steakhouse Restaurant in Hawkinsville. And we are coming to you live from the David Medical Studios in downtown Hawkinsville. Got a little shout out to WH over at Williams Mobile Welding. Ken had some work done on his boat, and I guess he did a really good job. Ken says he did a great job. So shout out to Williams Mobile Welding. You guys look them up. They come out and do anything you need. So they can weld paper.
Give them the number.
And I will give you the number in just a minute.
Give them the number.
Oh, you got the number?
Yeah, I've got the number.
Okay, well, I'll get the number I got it in my phone here, but I don't want to look it up while I'm talking. But anyway, shout out to WH and Williams Mobile Welding in the Middle Georgia area. If you need them, give them a call. Their number is, waiting on Mankato. It's 478-258-4494. That's Williams Mobile Welding. Call WH. Tell them you heard it on the XL Sports Network. The College Football Drive at 5. Let them know that, and he'll come out and do what you need. Let's see. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the injury report. This is something that's also come up in the here recently. I'm not sure if it was just at the SEC meetings or if it was something they've been talking about all around NCAA. But having an injury report much like the NFL does. I don't know if I like this. I'm a traditionalist, and at the same time, I like a little bit of progress. I like change, but not just for the sake of change. But man, it's starting to look a little bit too much. You got the 2-minute warnings, and you're gonna have the clock running like they do in the NFL, and now injury reports, and man, all this other stuff, paying players like they do in the NFL. This is getting to be almost like a minor league NFL team, man, or our minor league NFL league. What do you think? What do you think about the injury report?
As far as having one, I could care less, honestly.
You gotta have an opinion, man. We're on the radio here.
My opinion is I don't care. I'm sure some coaches would like it, so they know who they have to prepare for and don't have to prepare for. But I think it makes it way more interesting to not tell you who's playing. Like, hey, figure it out, prepare for it. So if you're not, you're going to lose. I mean, to me that's no different than somebody having a breakout game that you didn't see coming. I mean, you either have a scouting report and you're prepared for the game, or you don't and you're not.
Right.
Great coaches prepare for all possible scenarios. I mean, if we saw it for Georgia several times, what jumps out to me specifically is playing South Carolina. Any time they have a backup quarterback come in, it's like we were not prepared for him, or it just, I guess, a more mobile guy has been in the backup, and it just usually tears us up. I think 2019, 2020 specifically.
2019.
And it's happened several times, I believe. But to me, it's no different than that. Oh, I'm not sure if this guy's going to play or not. Well, guess what? You won't find out until we kick off.
That Auburn game last year was a prime example of that too.
For who exactly?
When we didn't know who quarterback they were going to play.
Yeah, that's because they both sucked.
Right, well,
Sorry, Auburn fans, but I think you'll agree with me. I work with one, and he is under no illusion that Peyton Thorne is a good quarterback.
yeah, but they had Robbie Ashford.
He left for a reason. He's back at Lenore Sellers now.
Yeah.
Good gracious. No, but again, that my opinion is I don't care. If you want to implement it, I don't think there is a real great reason for it, aside from someone trying to cite competitive advantage to not telling someone. But I mean, I think that's just lazy, and again, wanting someone to do your work for them. Like, oh, I don't know if this guy's going to play. Well, if he's healthy, he'll play, and if he's not, he won't. But I
think the Vegas oddsmakers would love this though, because they think about it. Who would be if somebody's really pushing hard for this? It would probably be them.
I mean, it could be.
Because
I don't know.
The FanDuel and all that other stuff, all those odds makers and the way the gambling industry goes. I mean, they're standing to make or lose based on the outcome of this. So, I'm not a gambler, so I'm not sure. I don't really care. But I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this injury report. As a fan, I want to know. I want to know hey, look, man, is my running back or is my starting linebacker, or whoever it is, you name your, one of the top players that are going to be, either playing or not that week, I want to know, are they going to play or not? But then again, I see like Kirby Smart, he has tightened up that guy. He is not going to give his opponent an edge. He's not going to do it, and to force him to do it, he's probably not for that either. But anyway, all right, we'll move along. So. The last thing I want to talk about, and we can probably throw some stuff in towards the end of the show if we have any time, but location for the cocktail party, 2026 and 27, Everbank Stadium will be undergoing a $1.4 billion renovation project, and they have come up with some ideas for neutral site games, Mercedes-Benz being one, Camping World Stadium in Orlando.
Yeah, that's neutral.
All right. Camping World Stadium in Orlando is one, and then Raymond James, obviously, in Tampa is the other one. And before we get into that last option, which would be my preference, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Bill, let's talk about that. Obviously, as Georgia fans, we would like to do the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but what do you think about those three options right there?
I was going to go off board, but if you want to specifically discuss those three,
okay, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I like the home and home series.
That was my last option. And that is an option they're considering too.
I mean, that's just me. You kind of talked about college football is moving kind of towards the NFL model, but the one thing that college football has that the NFL will never have is we talk about the traditions and the rivalries. I mean,
the pageantry.
Yeah, absolutely. This rivalry is going to be big, no matter where you go. And I hear a lot of people talk about the Swamp is a really tough environment to play in, and it's kind of weird to have this perspective. But man, Georgia never gets that. I feel like they're robbed. They never get that experience.
Exactly.
Like you get to go to Rocky Top in a night game. We're going to go to Tuscaloosa this year. We played
Austin. Yeah.
We've played in Mississippi State 2 years ago with the Cowbells. Playing in Ole Miss this year. I mean,
we went to South Bend and played Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I think the environment is what a hostile road environment is a very tough thing to overcome. But especially in a rivalry game, it makes it that much more fun.
Right.
I mean, talking about, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen that viral clip of Michigan going to a night game, and it was a whiteout in Penn State a few years ago. The very first play of the game, they couldn't get the ball snapped
They
because
couldn't.
it was so loud.
Good night. Yeah.
Man, I think a home and home series would be awesome.
Yeah.
One, I would love to see Georgia go to the Swamp and play a great game there. Obviously, I want to see them win, but I'd love to see them play in the Swamp because they haven't in close to 30 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. I was getting
It's
ready
been
to
a
get that,
long
yeah.
time. And man, I'd love for them to have to come between the hedges because it as much as love as you want to give, other stadiums. I'm not gonna give you a ranking because I have not been to other stadiums, so I cannot give you an informed opinion. But I know Georgia can get loud. I was in that stadium when they played Auburn 2016. And that was a year when Georgia wasn't even great. I think that was Kirby's first year. And man, when they got that interception of the game to seal the win, man, that place was crazy loud. So I'd love for the players to have an experience like that. Both Florida and Georgia going to the away stadiums because again, that is part of what makes college football great is the stadiums they play in and just the hate of that rivalry. I mean, it extends to, like we said, normal people in their everyday lives, not like in Georgia fans or not like in Florida fans. That is one of the great rivalries in the sport. And I would love to bring that back to the hometowns. And also, again, another minor part of it is the recruiting. It allows them to have an extra home game
Right.
to bring recruits in because right now neither one of them can bring recruits to that game.
That's great. Last time Georgia and Florida played in Athens, Florida won 52-17,
Yep.
and that was Kirby's freshman year.
Yep.
Kirby has never forgot that.
Oh, I'm sure he hasn't.
And the old ball coach said,
Steve
"I want to
Spurrier.
be the first one to ever hang 50 on these guys in Athens. Don't you think for a second that Kirby hadn't? That he'll always remember that."
Oh, if they go back to home and home, I want the first one to be in the Swamp. I want the first one in the Swamp.
Yeah, I can guarantee you both those games, those dogs will be ready. Those dogs will be ready.
Oh, and I know Florida be ready too, man.
Yeah.
Is as good as Georgia has been these past few years, and as I guess not up to that level as Florida has been. There have been moments in these games where Florida's been competitive. You can tell that they still have pride about trying to beat the Georgia Bulldogs,
No doubt.
and I respect the heck out of them for
Yeah,
it.
there's no doubt. And you play it, Will, as well as I do, man. Rivalries, it don't matter. It doesn't matter how you recruited. It doesn't matter what your record is. It doesn't matter any of that.
Nope.
Man, there's something different about a big rivalry, and that is showing up big rivalry.
Well, like we've said, if Kalen DeBoer is 1-11 this year, but that
Yeah,
one win is
that's
against
right.
Auburn, he's gonna keep his job for sure.
That's correct. That's correct. That my buddy played for Auburn. He said that was the first thing they said to him when he got there was, "I don't care if we go 1-10." Well, back then they only had 10 games. It don't matter if we go 1-9. That one win better be the last game of the year. So we're gonna, before we get off the air here, we still got a few more minutes here. Let's go ahead and look at the Georgia schedule this year, and let's just talk a little bit about that. We were talking about that earlier during the break. If you look at each one of these games, Georgia right now, before we head into the season, Georgia's probably going to be the favorite in every single game. If you look at it that way. But when you look at Georgia going undefeated, 12-0 in this season, probably the odds from Vegas are going to be against them for that. So let's just jump right into it. In the first game, Georgia against Clemson. Well, before I get to it, well, I want you to tell me on their schedule where do you see a slip up?
Well, see, I have two hats. I have the Georgia fan hat, and my answer with that hat on is they're not losing a game. They're beating everybody by 30.
Love it.
But the, I guess, rational sports observer, they have plenty of opportunity to slip up. I think it's less likely this year than it was last year because, a lot of these guys that are going to be starting, we're not starting on that last championship team. We have a whole season in between that now, and they're still feeling that sting from that loss to Alabama last year. A slip up, it obviously could come at in Tuscaloosa, in Austin. We all know I've been super down on Ole Miss, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. And I'm starting to, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm starting to, over the past few weeks, get more optimistic about what Tennessee looks like this year. Their quarterback's going to be good. I think.
I thought you were going to say the next game after that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, they better watch out for the minute.
The second, I'm sorry, the last game of the season.
No, they're not losing to Tech. That's not happening. The
Way more formidable.
Tennessee, I don't think they're going to lose to Tennessee in Athens, but I think, and I was really down on Tennessee last year. I thought they were overrated all year long, and I'm so glad Joe Milton's gone, so I don't have to hear any more about how far he can throw an orange. I think they have a much better quarterback. They're going to upgrade at that position, and I think that it's going to be deep in the season. Crazy things happen in November. So if there is a slip up, I think it's obviously going to be in one of those games. Bama, Texas, Ole Miss, or Tennessee.
We're going to take a quick 3-minute break, come back, and we're going to kind of go through this Georgia schedule for the last 10 to 12 minutes of the show. Stay tuned. We're back in 3 minutes. Listen to XL Sports Network. Welcome to the XL Sports Network, College Ball Drive 5. We're back for the last segment of the show. Got about 11 minutes or so left in the show. Well, we're talking about the University of Georgia football schedule this year coming up. Start the season August the 31st at noon. A noon kickoff against Clemson.
That's weird.
I know, right? I'm telling you, that should have been a primetime game, but
Yeah, God forbid Georgia gets a night game.
I know, right? Exactly. Well, hey, they got one against Alabama, so that's a night game.
Yeah, but they're on the road.
In Alabama.
Hey, they got a night game against Kentucky on the road and Alabama on the road.
Good. We're playing Georgia Tech at night at home. Good job there. It's a heck of a home game for the season ticket holders to go watch.
Yeah, and that's a cold game too. I've been in that game at night before. It's cold. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. All right, so start off with Clemson. I think they're. I think what I heard was they were about a 2-touchdown favorite against Clemson. So let's just go ahead and look at that. Well, what do you? I know that just real early in the off season, I guess, or in the summer. We're not even really into the summer yet, even though we're past the Memorial Day holiday. We're unofficially in the summer. But you tell me what you think about Georgia Clemson this year.
In our pick'em last year, I picked Clemson to my great dismay. I'll just put it like this: I don't know that it's going to be a great year for Clemson. I was looking at their schedule coming into the season or coming into the show. There's a very real possibility that this year is almost like it was last year. I could see week 6 them still being 3-3, and Lord help them if they're. Because I think we're going to learn a lot about Clemson the first 3 weeks of the season because they've got Georgia, and they got App State, and then they got NC State coming to town. If they finish that 1-2, it's going to be tough sledding from there because I think they only have 2 games between that and then going on the road to Florida State, and that's going to be a tough one for them. I expect Georgia to come out ready to play. If they play as well as they can, and Clemson plays as well as they can, I do think they're at least a 2-touchdown favorite to win that. I'm trying to be a biased Georgia fan here, but I do believe that Georgia is a better team top to bottom than Clemson. And there was not a single thing last year that I saw, and I watched Clemson very closely. There was not a single thing I saw last year that was encouraging, especially in that bowl game. Even though they happened to win it, that there was nothing that I looked at and I'm like, oh, that looks good. They can build off that next year. It was from start to finish, game 1 to the bowl game, it was just inconsistency all the way around, and I did not see any improvement at any point.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of it's going to have to do with quarterback play. I think over there on their side, does that guy live up to his potential? I think he's gonna. I think that his ceiling is limitless. I think over there, Cade Klubnik we're talking about. The guy's got an amazing ceiling, but what is it around him? I don't know what's around him, and we all know that Dabo has not taken out the portal. So what he has is what he has, yeah. I really, my mom was a huge Clemson fan. I used to live up in that area for a few years when I was a kid, so I know a little bit about that area. I know how passionate that fan base is, and the fact that Dabo, who I'll tell you, I may have said this to you before, I would love to have played for that guy, when I was a player. He's the kind of coach that I think a lot of kids want to play for. But you got to evolve. You got to evolve with the times. and he obviously has not evolved with the times yet. I just think that 2 touchdown spread that Georgia has, I think that might probably be more like what it's going to be like. I think that that what's going to be the tail sign, I think, for Georgia is going to be, can they get some pressure on the quarterback? Can we get some pressure on that guy? And if I think we can pressure that guy, I don't know how the offensive line is. I think their offensive line has not been so great over the last couple of years. If they can get some pressure on the quarterback, it may be a long night, a long day, long morning, early afternoon for the Tigers in Tampa. So, moving along, we're going to move past that second game, Tennessee Tech, and then we'll talk about Georgia going on the road to Kroger Field in Lexington. Also going to be a night game up there. At least it's not going to be cold. We played up there before where it's pretty dang cold.
They usually play Kentucky later in the season.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't have to worry about that. But I'll tell you what, Kentucky plays Georgia. Kirby will tell you, they play Georgia tough. They're extremely physical, and I don't expect them to be any different this year. You're going to have the leader on the offense, former Dog. Leader on the defense, former Dog. And we're talking about Brock Vandegrift at quarterback. We're talking about Pops over there at the linebacker. So how do you see the Georgia-Kentucky matchup?
Yeah, no disrespect to the Golden Eagles of Tennessee Tech, but I think that's going to be one of those games where they don't even have a line because it's disrespectful to bet on something. I think it's going to be around 50 unofficially, but Kentucky, you know what? Like you said, they always play Georgia tough, and that's gotten them a total of, 1 win since Kirby's been there. So they can keep playing tough and finish 7-5, 8-4. I don't think they're going to threaten Georgia at all. I think their best hope is to try and prevent Georgia from scoring, which I don't think they're going to do. They're going to need to get to 30 to win that game, and I don't think they can do it.
So ESPN has come out this week and said that the best game of the season will be that 4th game Georgia plays against Alabama and Tuscaloosa. I think I may disagree with that. We'll talk about what I think.
They said best game of the season?
Yeah.
For Georgia or just in the entirety?
The most critical game of the season.
For the entirety of college football?
Yeah. I think that's what, that's what I
disagree, but okay.
I'm with you. There's so many other games out there but I don't know who it was at ESPN. I just saw the headline on that yesterday. But anyway, it's going to be a good game. Georgia and Alabama, 7:30 kickoff in Tuscaloosa on September the 28th. I'll give you what I think's going to happen in that game. I think Georgia, Alabama's going to have Milroe quarterback. I think he's probably going to be more of a run threat than a pass threat. I think that Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to force him into run the ball a little bit more than he's going to throw the ball. I think that Georgia has learned their lesson as far as the way to defend him, and saw what happened last year when Michigan just got after that dude. I think you're going to see Michael Williams have an absolute crazy, amazing game this year. You might even see Chaz Chambliss have an amazing game. I think they're going to get after him, and I think that Georgia's going to probably have 4 or 5 sacks before halftime, and I think they're going to scorch those guys on our offense. I think that Georgia is going to come out of that game. I think it's going to be a lot more lopsided than what people think it's going to be.
As a Georgia fan, I'd love for that to happen, but I just don't know. Depending on where preseason rankings are, this could be a top 10 matchup. I don't know how much the AP poll is going to like Alabama going in. I can't imagine they'll drop them that far. But this could be a top 10 matchup come week 4. And I have been saying, Alabama's going to fall off a cliff when Nick Saban leaves. I think they're probably going to perform a little bit better than my expectations. And that's just based on, the talent they have there and the fact that I think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. So that game, I think that's going to be a good game and a close game. If Georgia does blow them out, I'll be happy, but I'm not expecting that at all. I think we're talking about less than 2 touchdowns. But right now, if I had to pick a winner, again, I'm probably going to roll with Georgia just because I think they are a better team. But man, Georgia hasn't played in Tuscaloosa since 2020. And that is a tough place to play. Talking about hostile road environments, that is a tough place to play. So I'm really excited to watch the game, and I think it's going to be closer than what you're talking.
The game, both teams instantly have an off week before they play that game. So 2 weeks before Georgia comes to town, Alabama goes to Wisconsin. So that's going to probably be a good. We'll get a good idea. We may get a decent idea how well Kellen DeVore has prepared these guys. Going forward, we got just a couple minutes left. Georgia Auburn playing in Georgia. That's I'm gonna say Georgia's gonna win that. I say comfortably by I'll say at least by 8, maybe 9, 2 scores. I think that'd be a 2-score game. What are your thoughts quickly?
I think they're going to blow them out this year. I think it's going to be like what we saw 2 years ago, 40-something 10. Not that I think Auburn's bad. I just think they're probably a year away and a quarterback away. I don't think they're good enough to put up any amount of points on Georgia, especially in Athens this year.
Hard to believe those big quarterbacks didn't go to one of them didn't go to Auburn. Mississippi State, 2 dogs coming to town, so beat the Bulldogs, first the Bulldogs. I think the real dogs will win that game pretty comfortably. Let's go to Texas. Austin, Texas on October the 19th. Wow, man, what a game. I cannot wait to see that game. That's going to probably most likely be, that might be the first, the second, there may be 2 matchups with these 2 teams here when it's all said and done.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think that again, going back to getting pressure on the quarterback, containing Quinn Ewers and putting some pressure on him probably will be the secret to Georgia winning that game. I think that on the other side of the ball, I think that Texas defensive line is really good. It's going to be tough to run those guys. I think we're going to have to throw the ball pretty good against them. I think Georgia will come out with a win in that game. Probably 7 points or less. I think. What do you think?
This is a really tough game to, I guess, predict right now. I think there's a lot to consider. One, if Texas lives up to expectations, I think this should be a 1-2 matchup going into it, assuming Georgia and Texas are both undefeated, but that's not going to be easy to do. Georgia's got Alabama they got to play. And Texas, I think people are starting to overlook that Week 2 game against Michigan. I know Michigan's lost a lot, but they're still going to be a very good team. That defense is going to be, I think that defense may be better than it was last year, and that's going to be tough to do. My biggest question, obviously, is at quarterback, but we'll see. And then I think this set up perfectly for Georgia because there's no bye week before they go to Texas. And before Texas plays Georgia, they play Oklahoma. So there's a potential, and I'm not rooting for Texas to be, not at full strength or not have their full attention because I think they will have it. But there's a possibility for a letdown after a emotional rivalry game, especially with their biggest rival they have in Oklahoma, and then immediately turn around to play Georgia. It's tough because I simultaneously believe that is one of the only opportunities for Georgia not to be the favorite because they're on the road against a team that will probably be top 3, top 5 at that point. And also there's a chance for Texas to completely come out flat and blow it. So that one is still up in the air. I think that might be a closer game too. But again, I think that game's going to hinge on Quinn Ewers and what he can do.
We're going to go ahead and end the show on the radio at this point. We're going to stay on the podcast as far as the video goes. So that's going to complete the radio portion of the show today. You listen to the Axios Sports Network College Football Drive 5, brought to you by the Steakhouse Restaurant in Hawkinsville. See you guys next week. Take care. Now on video. So Will, we're talking about the rest of the Georgia schedule. So we go to we leave Texas, and we have a week off before the Florida game, as always, a cocktail party. So man, that's going to be a tough game for Florida. I really think it's going to be a tough game for Florida. But like you said before, it's a rivalry game, and I think that Florida will probably keep that game within 2 touchdowns. I think, and that, to be honest with you, if they keep it within 2 touchdowns, I'll be disappointed. I'm sure a lot of Georgia fans will be too, because I really want to just blow those guys out. I want to blow those guys out best every chance I get. What do you think about that?
Well, like we said, they're gonna have tough sledding next year. They could very easily lose to Tennessee and Kentucky before they play Georgia, and then after that they have to go to Texas. So I don't anticipate that game to be close. Again, I could be wrong, but I am not high on Florida this year. I don't think there's much room for optimism. If I have to hear one more person tell me how good Graham Mertz is, I'm going to lose it. He didn't
great, man.
He didn't throw interceptions last year, but I don't think he was. I think he was far from great. He was. I don't think he was a good quarterback at all. I don't anticipate that one to be close. I think it's going to be more of a blowout against Florida this year.
I'm not sure this Ole Miss. Now you get this deep in the season, like we talked about before, and yeah, Ole Miss is putting together a pretty good team, but I don't know how well their depth is. So we'll see that November 9th game. We're deep in the season, and we go to Oxford and play over there. I think depth is going to have a lot to do with this. How deep we are in our and especially on the O line and D line, how well those lines of scrimmage are prepared. I think that's going to probably be one of the problems. Now, coming into that game, man, Jackson Dart. If we look at it right now, Jackson Dart's going to be. He's a good ball player, and they put together some weapons over there. So, if we look at what they have right now, and suppose both teams have no injuries, yeah, that's going to be a really close game, I think.
If you look at it on paper, yeah, Ole Miss looks good, but like we say, games aren't played on paper. I'm not as high on Ole Miss as everybody else is, and I don't think that's a shock if you've been watching the show. I think Jackson Dart is a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's far from elite. I think this is going to be one of those situations like USC when they just gather a bunch of talent together and hope it works. I have it written down. I wrote it down when I looked up my research. Obviously, if they're playing Georgia and they do what I said they're going to do and lose to Arkansas, that's the game before they play them. But before that, they play LSU, Oklahoma, and then, of course, like I said, if I'm picking Arkansas to upset them, they're going to have to be coming off 3 tough games. Against top 25 opponents, Lane Kiffin is 7-8 at Ole Miss, and that's not real great because at that point Georgia's going to be no lower than us. That assuming they lose to Texas and Alabama, they're still going to be a top 10, top 12 team. But I think they have a good chance to win both of those. So if Georgia comes in as a number 1 or number 2 team in the country, at that point they're going to be rolling, and I think Ole Miss, I don't know if they're going to have an answer for it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, man. It's a great game. It's going to be a great game. Then Tennessee comes to Georgia. Tennessee has not beat Georgia since the 2016 season on the Hail Mary, which still burns me. I hate that. And that was in Athens. I think that Tennessee, and the same thing I said about Clemson is applies to Tennessee. A lot of it's going to depend on how well they get play out of the quarterback. They got that. I guess he's a redshirt freshman, isn't he? The $8 million quarterback they have in there, whatever his name is.
Iamaliava?
Yeah, that guy. I think he's a redshirt freshman.
I think he's still a redshirt. I don't think they burned his redshirt last year. He didn't get much playing time.
Right. So a lot of it's going to depend on the quarterback play there. I think they've lost some guys. I think it seems like they lost some offensive linemen to the draft. And so anyway, they also lost a linebacker or defensive lineman to the portal, and apparently that was addition by subtraction. But he was a really good ball player. Anyway, so Tennessee coming to Georgia, that's going to be good, but I still think Georgia's going to win that game at least by 2 scores.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, if there's a chance for an upset at home, I think it's the Tennessee. I think Georgia's still going to be better. They're going to be a tier above them, but like you said, rivalry games getting deep in November, you never know what can happen. I fully anticipate Georgia to win that game and again win it convincingly. But at Tennessee, depending on how the first part of the season goes, we'll see how that game can go. I do expect Tennessee to be good this year. I have again been steadily moving them up my list of teams to watch.
All right, week 11 or the 11th game of the season is no, we're not talking about that. UMass. We'll go
the
to
mighty Minutemen.
Yeah. We'll go to the final game of the year, which is the one I think that maybe if you talk about a slip up, and here's the reason why. Well, I think that you come into that game, if the season goes the way I think it's going to go, you can come in 11-0. You can come in, number 1 in the nation. It's not even going to be close, and you've got a playoff spot secured, and you're looking forward to that SEC championship game. And if you get that SEC championship game win, you're going to have a bye in the first round of playoffs. So they're looking at that, and I tell you, Tech is. I'm telling you, Coach Key has done a good job with those guys. I don't think that Colin's got enough time to turn that program around, but I think that Brett Key is doing it right now. I'm not saying Georgia Tech is going to beat Georgia, but if there's any slip up out there, that could possibly be the one. I think that Tech is going to come into that game ready to play and wanting to. Hey, listen, this could be that could possibly be an 11-0 Georgia team could possibly plan for something that has never in the history of football happened in the SEC, and that's 4 consecutive undefeated regular seasons. Never happened before. Never happened 3 times, and they've done it. They could be doing something that could never have happened. And wouldn't Tech love nothing better than to spoil that?
I'm not worried about Tech for 2 reasons. One, Georgia is at least 2 tiers above them as far as programs go and how good the team is. And 2, this is Georgia Tech's schedule leading up to playing Georgia for like the 6-7 weeks before that. They are at Louisville versus Duke, at UNC versus Notre Dame, at Virginia Tech versus Miami versus NC State, then at Georgia. That is going to be a brutal stretch. They might lose 6 or 7 of those games. And then coming to Athens, they're going to be beat up. There's no chance they win that game. They're not going to be within 30 of Georgia.
So they're playing Miami, North Carolina State, and Georgia back to back.
Yes.
So, good luck. Good luck with that.
They're going to have tough sledding next year. I don't care how good Haynes King plays or how good of a coach Brent Key is. They have a really tough schedule. I think Florida's is still tougher, but that schedule I just listed off to you, that is a brutal run of games.
Yeah, that is brutal.
And they start against Florida State across the pond over in Ireland. So I think we're looking at potentially an 8-loss season for Georgia Tech this year, if not more.
Wow. Haven't really studied that deep. So coming up in the next few weeks, guys, we will get into our conference predictions. We'll sit down and start going over that probably sometime when you got June coming up. So in the next 3 to 4 episodes, you'll start seeing us go through those. You have been listening to the XL, or been watching at this point, the XL Sports Network on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and leave us a message on there. We'll get back to you. Love to have you guys call in. I don't care if it's from Middle Georgia or somewhere in Idaho or Nebraska or Southern California. Wherever you are, you're a college football fan, we're a friend of yours. So even if you're down there in the old nasty swamplands in northern Florida, we'd love to hear from you. But this has been the XL College Football Sports. The XL Sports Report. I'll get it right in a minute, Ken. The XL Sports Network College Football Drive 5. You guys have a great night.